You ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the June regular meeting of your Board of Trustees. To honor our nation's heroes and especially to honor the men and women in uniform who serve and protect our village, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Fitzgerald, may we have the roll call, please?
Certainly, President Gallagher. Trustee Hansen.
Here.
Trustee Timmick.
Here.
Trustee Allen.
Here.
Trustee Rudolph.
Here.
Trustee Sifferman.
Here.
Trustee Tyrrell.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Having read the agenda, does any trustee have any additions or deletions from tonight's agenda? Hearing none, before we get to citizens' comments, I'm going to give a brief update on the Bemis Woods Bike Path. I believe that's why a number of the members of our audience are here tonight. So we thought it would make sense to go ahead and give a recap before public comment, and then you may address the board if you so choose. So Village Manager Velkme and I accompanied Jeff Ziegler today on a walk of the proposed bike path, or a portion of it, that portion which was cleared at the time. And the path extends west of Wolf Road. It crosses Ogden at Wolf, jogs in to avoid the right turn lane, and then comes back out, but there's a 15-foot separation between the far edge of the path, if I'm correct, and the westernmost edge of the road, including the shoulder. Within that, there's quite a bit of vegetation within that 15-foot strip, which we intend to keep as a buffer, and the path will then extend down at least 15 foot away from the road, all the way to where it will meet the bike path that currently exists. Our village engineer, Jeff Ziegler, can go into more detail with regard to that, and Village Manager Velkme, I don't know if you want to add anything, or...
I will defer to Village Engineer Ziegler on this
Okay.
one.
How's the poison ivy, Jeff?
All right, I think we're on. And so, yes, we've cleared a significant path. We're going to be doing some survey work out there to locate the alignment. Prior to all the clearing and stuff that went on inside the actual wooden itself, to do the survey work, we had met with the Forest Preserve District twice, actually. This last time being a little more productive to discuss the path location, the impacts to trees, the impacts to certain, I want to call them flowers, plants, those type of things that they were concerned about. And I met with the engineer, Eric Otto, and I also met with Craig, and I don't recall his last name. He's an environmental scientist out there. Our goal was to stay a minimum of 15 feet away from the shoulder. So this is outside of the paved lane. And then there's a stripe where the traveling public travels, and then as a lane line, and then beyond that you have 15 foot to the closest edge of the So what we're talking about is I have to pardon, I'm not an expert on this particular device. Pardon me. And so what you see up here in this particular area here is the right turn lane that's back out inside here, and then there's a 3-foot shoulder beyond that, and then we're an additional 15 foot to the what would be the east edge of the bike path. Beyond that, there will remain, as President Gallagher said, a significant amount of existing underbrush, trees, a lot of other things that are there, the flowers and whatever kind of plants that are out there. We were able to avoid the Forest Preserve District's concern by meeting with them, and we think that we have a solid alignment from which to proceed on and continue with the final design report. So the design will meet the Federal Highway Administration's policies and procedures on bike trails and mixed-use paths. That's important because they basically set the standards for those type of improvements. They're very safe improvements. The Federal Highway Administration doesn't put regulations out unless they feel they're safe improvements. And so we're excited to continue to move forward, do the survey work, and collect the rest of the data, and then prepare some additional plans which we can present before the board before we actually submit the project development report to the state.
Thank you. So we did consider other alternatives besides this one, but this was the one that all parties could agree upon, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
There was one concern also about, there was a suggestion to go through the meadow, but I know that, Jeff, when you met with them, they did not accept that proposal, correct?
So we looked at a variety of paths with the district. There's a variety of reasons why certain paths were basically taken out. You have the, I want to call it the yellow path, the blue path, and the green path. The pink ones are the existing trails, or red. We had tried to suggest to them to take a portion of the green with the blue and then the yellow back in towards Wolf Road. There's, for instance, they didn't want the blue path, even though they suggested it. They didn't want the blue path because they felt that people, pedestrians or bicyclists would then drive through the grass and get into the cul-de-sac and then drive down the roadway, and they don't want their patrons doing that. The green one was pretty much something that they were very interested in. The only concern with the green path was that the green path represents an opportunity to go back to the Woodland Crossing. And so if you were in the Forest Preserve District and you were coming back, it would be like, why go all the way to the corner at Wolf where there's a safe crossing when I can just hop off and cross back at Woodland Avenue again. And at that point in time, there would be no signage because these signs at Woodland Avenue are going to be removed as a result of this particular project. And so the yellow path was kind of a status quo, just building along Wolf Road as they originally wanted to do. And what we were able to do was to convince them that we needed to increase the separation from Wolf Road. And so the white line is going to be the resulting path. And it's going to meet the separation requirements, safety separation requirements and everything that are required there. And it's going to be a really nice path. It's not only going to be safe, but it's also going to be comfortable from a family perspective in terms of your kids aren't going to be able to simply drive off the path and you know, drive into the traffic or anything like that with little kids. There's still going to be a buffer there. And then it's far enough off the roadway where there is a significant factor of safety there. So I can guarantee you if a car drove off the roadway, it's soft enough out there, you're going to sink like almost instantly when you get inside there. You got to hit a few trees to get to the path first.
It's a 10-foot wide path, is that correct?
That is correct.
Jeff, could you shed some light on the issues related to the commitment that the village would have to make with maintenance of any of these other alternative paths that were considered, and how the expense connected with that was considered?
Yes, Trustee Zimmerman, is a great point. Any of the path alignments would become the responsibility of, in terms of maintenance, not only construction but maintenance of the path would become the responsibility of the village. So that includes you know, everything from resurfacing in the future, things like that. But we plan on building this to federal standards. If you don't know anything about federal standards, they're very high level standards. That means that it's going to be built to support vehicles and things like that. So it's not something that we're going to be back in doing regular maintenance on. We will have to do some snow plowing if that's required on the path. I don't believe that the district snow plows their paths that I'm aware of, and I may be incorrect. But certainly if there was a need for that, that's something that the village would end up having to do for that portion of the path. That may change at some point in time in the future when I think the Fourth Reserve District sees more value in getting people, but at the point right now, their position has been that the village would be required to do maintenance. I want to say another thing about this. We're also talking about a signal improvement down at Ogden Avenue. So there'll be pedestrian push buttons, and the signals will be incorporated with those pedestrian push buttons to allow adequate time for pedestrians and bicyclists to cross their safe way.
What about turning on red? No turn on red for the southbound traffic on Wolf Road.
That has not been discussed yet in terms of a no turn on red. Same thing would go for the right turn on red, you know, at Wolf Road. We have not discussed that with County Highway yet. My suspicion is that County Highway is going to say no.
You know what reasons they might have, or?
Yes, it impacts traffic and the flow of traffic in the area.
Okay.
The same reason that IDOT would probably say no on Ogden Avenue.
They have the final say in this. We can just give suggestions, and they say this is the way it's going to be because there are roads.
Right. That it's county jurisdiction, county highway department on Wolf Road, and it is the state of Illinois on Ogden Avenue.
Okay. So I understand this. It's going to be 15 feet west of the existing far east lane of Wolf Road, and there's trees and shrubs and fauna and...
Yeah, everything. Deer tracks are back there. I was out chainsawing today.
And it goes all the way up to the existing bike path, which runs...
Yes. What we were able to do was, the original plan, the district wanted us to stay outside of their property to limit impact on their property. And what they've come to the conclusion is that we are looking for a safe family experience. Both of those became very, very important throughout the district, our conversations with the district, which included Manager Velkme and periodically President Gallagher, myself, and Matt Super at those meetings. And it became really evident that we were looking for a good quality project and a safe project and a family-oriented project, and they ultimately agreed with us.
And finally, if you could just explain for the audience and for myself why we couldn't have the small segment of green and then the blue leading to the cul-de-sac.
That is the district's property, and they made that decision. They do not want, their decision was based upon their desire to not have bicyclists or pedestrians entering the parking lot itself and driving down through the parking lot itself. That was their concern.
To build on Trustee Zimmerman's comment on the maintenance, that's pretty dense foliage back there. I mean, so is Western Springs Municipal Department going to be tasked with going through there and maintaining it and observing it and making sure limbs aren't overgrowing and all that kind of work? And you were kidding about bringing in a chainsaw, but I'm just trying to understand what is going to be the ongoing responsibility for our village.
We haven't gone that far yet, but there are a number of trees that are out there that are already, I want to say, in precarious positions currently. One tree falls onto another tree, it dies and falls onto another tree. The other tree is holding it up, things like that. All of that stuff will be cleared up as part of the project itself. The district is actually very happy about that. My guess is we'll probably be able to work out something with the district. They have the means and the manpower to do the tree trimming. The trees are actually not on our property. We don't own the trees, and so we haven't gotten into that discussion about that particular aspect of it. But they've asked us to maintain the path itself.
So if something falls on the path, it's our responsibility to clear it. If something's off the path, but is
in a precarious position, then I would expect the district to come out and clean that up.
I assume that will be spelled out in the intergovernmental agreement.
Yes, we will deal with that in the intergovernmental agreement.
Thank you. Any other questions from trustees?
But I just want to point out, that's also another reason why the paths going deep into the forest preserve were not ideal, because of the idea of if we have to maintain them, it's more difficult to see them, and even just monitoring the activity on those paths and everything is harder to do, obviously, if it's hidden from view. So I think that's another reason that this path was suggested.
But I would say the green was more open, right? I mean, because the white is going to be foliage on each side. You're not going to be able to see it unless you're actually going through there. Whereas the green, you would be able to see either from that access road or the meadow.
Right, but the Forest Preserve does not want the bikes in the parking lot.
Yeah, the green is actually, a portion of the green is actually entirely closed, especially as you're right up near Wolf and Ogden there. That first probably 300, 400 feet is all fully wooded on both sides. One of the other issues with the green path was the area from the parking lot, the entrance to the parking lot, the Bemis Woods parking lot. So you come off of Ogden, you go up about 300-400 feet. From that area, the green path going forward off to the north, there's a significant number of oak trees in there. And when we finally met out there on site, after they had looked at this prior to them actually going out and looking at the property, it was decided that potentially the path would have to be on the pavement to avoid all the oak trees. There's a significant number of oak trees along that east side of the Bemis Woods roadway there. So another clear reason why we shouldn't go in that direction.
Thank you. Any other trustee? And then I'll open the meeting up to public comment. Would anybody like to address the board this evening?
Hi.
Good evening.
Can everybody hear now? It's Jim Havlet, 4201 Forest Avenue. Thank you, President Gallagher and trustees. And I know there's a number of people here that also sent letters for concern about this. I think we're all in agreement that crossing at Wolf and Ogden is a much better solution. I mean, that's a given. Let's talk first about the ownership maintenance. So last time we were here, there was discussion that the village would not take ownership or maintenance. So has that been resolved now? legal has
Yes.
cleared that? Okay.
Yes.
Good, that's a good thing. A couple of things, questions that I have. There was discussion, and the green path is clearly the one that I personally am in favor of. Just so people know that well, they're talking about the white trail, 15 feet off the edge of pavement. 15 feet's a good, it's better than the 5 feet that was proposed before. Just so you know, when they construct the trail, and Jeff, you can fill in here if I'm saying something correct, the standards are going to be that not only the trail, the 10 feet, but at a minimum 5 feet either side of the trail is going to have to be cleared. So you're not just looking at 10 feet, you're looking at 20 feet of clearing. So now, if you're talking about the buffer, you're 15 feet, you're losing 5 feet of what we're talking about landscape area, and you have 10 feet left. And what Jeff said about the soft ground, I'm sure there's going to be some drainage, so you're going to lose some of that land there, as well as landscaping and buffer. So it probably won't be, don't think in your mind it's going to be 15 feet of dense shrubbery. And I don't know how, is the highway department the entity that's going to construct this trail? Are they going to bid it through?
No, we are bidding it.
Okay.
This is a loan program through Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program. Not a loan program, sorry, a grant.
Grant.
program.
Grant program? Isn't it an 80-20?
It is an 80/20 split.
Okay. So I don't know, construction-wise, how realistic it is to cut a corridor. I'm sure they can do whatever, but I'm surprised that, or not. I'd be encouraged that they could do that as opposed to just clear cutting everything out of there, which I think for construction-wise may be the result. If I could ask questions about the green path, there was a statement made that someone decided that the green path would encourage people to come down the drive that currently exists there. And was that the Forest Preserve's position?
Correct.
Yes.
Because I've talked to people at the Forest Preserve, and I have not heard that as a concern of theirs.
I think initially that was their preferred path, correct, Jeff?
That's
And then at
correct.
some point in time, when they looked at it closer, they changed their minds. So I don't know how recently you spoke with them, but.
Yeah, I don't.
This afternoon? I mean, what I've heard from the Forest Preserve is they're in agreement with either path, either location.
Okay.
And they're willing to look at either location.
We will find out who you spoke to and so forth, but we've been dealing specifically with the people that have the decision-making
Okay.
powers. so-
Okay. I
so
can talk
we'll
with you.
follow- We can
Yeah,
follow up.
Off
with that.
record, yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of people at the Forest Preserve District, and you can get different answers.
Okay, that's fine. There was a comment also about the length, or about the maintenance of the trail and the forest, or the village having to take maintenance ownership. I believe the green trail and the white trail are the same length. So,
Potentially.
yeah, so that's really not an argument pro or con for either site, so. Again, I think really the green path is a much more enjoyable way to go. Encourage, I don't know how late is too late, but I would encourage that route. I think it's a much safer, much more enjoyable ride than right along Wolf Road. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Hi,
Good evening.
can you hear me?
No.
Gotta push
they
it
finish
down.
up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, Todd Halamka. I live at 3914 Woodland. I've had the pleasure of almost 30 years of living in that first double block right off of Ogden. Raised 3 kids here, and all of us have been avid bikers, and we really love the Forest Preserve. And used that crossing long before it had the blinking lights. And as Jim said, really happy to see that it's become, I think, a little safer to cross at Wolf. I do think, one sidebar comment, folks will still use Woodland. With the lights and the path gone, it may in fact be safer than what it is currently, because those lights work half the time and then don't work. And I can't tell you how many times each week cars are spinning and just missing, hitting people. I want to support Jim's comment about the green path, respecting everything that was said earlier. Again, riding along truth be told, I've also ridden along the side of Wolf before. I believe the bridge that we cross, that would stay the same, right?
Yes.
And that lane is roughly 15 feet, 18 feet of the width of the bridge that you have to go across.
I'm not sure.
I've been on that numerous times where people are texting, they wander. The car's on average about 16, 17 feet long in length, and when those start to turn or spin, with due respect to the setback of 15 feet, which is good, I don't think it's enough personally. And I think that from the sort of experiential ride of its families and so forth, I think all of us would agree if it's possible to take the green route and go through the forest preserve, the reason we're going there in the first place, versus riding up along the side of the road. So really pleased you guys are thinking about it and working on it. I just would encourage you to consider, if it's not too late, the green path, because I think it's a much more user-friendly one. And I think if that's put in the right way, you won't have the concern that I think was brought up about people shortcutting, and going back across Woodland. My comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that I was clear, because I didn't point to the map or anything on this green path. So this portion of the green path that's from here, at this entrance right here,
To the parking lot, that entrance.
right, to back inside here,
Mhm.
that portion of the green path has got to go on the roadway. Cannot go in the trees. That was what we were told by the Forest Preserve District. There's no way to
Would
get
they
it in
authorize
the
that,
trees.
Jeff? Because we,
Pardon me?
would they authorize that? Because we were told all
No,
along.
They won't authorize it.
Oh.
And that was part of the problem, but they said there's too many oak trees in that stretch of the roadway.
I see.
We wanted to go in back of the curb, and the back of the curb is lined with oak trees through there. And so it kind of forced all the bike traffic onto the pavement in that location. So they weren't happy about that ultimately when they went back and looked at it. That green plan, I believe, from what I can tell, wasn't something that they went out in the field and actually looked at and planned before they actually gave us this doc. I may be wrong, but anybody who would tell me that they want to get rid of all the oak trees down there, especially coming from the Forest Preserve, and they've been adamant about protecting the oak trees, something happened there where they came up with this plan. Really, that last segment of the green doesn't really fit in with the rest of the green.
Could I ask I stood back
Of
up, a
course.
quick question to that. Hearing that, does that represent roughly about a quarter of the length of the green would be back on the road there? Is that what you're saying, roughly?
Yeah, probably about a third.
So that's how we get to the trail now. We ride right on that area. And I guess two thoughts occurred to me is if there's a paint stripe line that could be added to that just shows where the bikes go. And I know people drive slowly through there, 20 plus miles an hour at the most versus 50 plus on Wolf. A suggestion would be to use that. You don't maintain it in that regard because it's already maintained by the street or the road. So you take, maybe a third of the length of that out of the equation and reinvest that in the other. Again, I'm strongly in favor of the green and wish you to consider it. Thank you.
We certainly appreciate the comments, and they've been pretty adamant about not wanting anything in the parking areas, on the roadways, stuff like that. They're looking for a different experience. They want their patrons to be on the path when they get into the Forest Preserve District. Those are the conversations we've had.
I think it's safe to say one thing they have consistently said is that they will not authorize a path that is on a roadway or in the parking lot from day one.
Correct.
Other things have changed from them, but that has been one consistent statement throughout.
But I guess the point, though, is that that's not worse than they are today. But if they want a different experience, how about them pay for the maintenance on the white if they're preventing us from doing the green? I mean, I guess
Good luck
my problem
with
is
it.
they're saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, but by the way, you're going to have to pay for it. It just sort of seems imbalanced.
Well, it's their property. We're doing it to improve a safety issue that we feel is paramount by getting rid of that Woodland crossing and shifting it over to Ogden and Wolf, and that's the whole reason why we have undertaken this project, even though technically it's beyond our borders.
Are they preventing us from the green? Are they saying,
Well, according to
can't do
Jeff,
that?
we cannot beyond where there's that right turn into the parking lot, from there on, that would have to be on the roadway to save the oak trees, and then because it would have to be on the roadway, they would not authorize that. Is that correct, Jeff?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
With regard to the maintenance issue, that is something that is system-wide. They do not want to take on any additional liability. And there are other communities that have built paths which also have the maintenance requirement.
Jim?
Yeah, Jim Havlet again, thank you. The green path on that short leg, if we'll call it that, that's contrary to what I'm hearing from the Forest Preserve. I'm hearing that is a possibility. They recognize that there's four oak trees that could be potentially impacted. But what I'm hearing is that they're willing to work with that and to figure out a solution. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Good evening.
I'm Scott Hamilton. I've been a resident of the town since
Use the microphone.
I'll just speak up.
No, this is for the people at home. This is so they can hear you on, yeah. You're on TV. Channel 99.
I just was just a TV star. Scott Hamilton, I've been a resident since 1964. I'm also an avid cyclist, and I've been on all those existing trails. I have not only been on it, I've taken my family since my son was old enough to be in a Burley up to now when he can hammer on those trails. And I fully endorse Jim's proposal, the green, and it became very apparent as I was listening to the dialogue, the presentation. There may be some difference in facts, and I would just suggest as a beginning point, I would suggest to the village trustees maybe figuring out why these discrepancies exist and come to the conclusion. I know Jim is very conscientious and be willing to try and dig up his sources. The village could do the same. That might be a useful task to do before making a final decision. Second, a number of people have commented about safety being paramount. I do a lot of road cycling on roads, and I've ridden on the trails. The trail next to the White, next to Wolf Road, the speed limit, I believe, is 40 miles an hour on Wolf Road. Cars typically get up to 45 and 50. That 10-foot barrier, that won't stop a car. And many of you may have been in town as long as I have. And I was personal friends of the Ryan family. Matt Ryan, of course, lost his life. Walking, he was on the shoulder. It wasn't that far off. That's not what I would consider a safe place for families. The green alternative certainly would, and if there's the issue of sacrificing trees, and my understanding is that the green proposal would require fewer trees to be cut down than the white. But even if it was neutral, and even if there's 4 oak trees involved, I think that trade-off is well worth it if there's the ability to do the green path. The final thing, I hope all the trustees, I sent an email to the village. I hope everybody got my email. Final thing is I think everybody has done a very good job of studying and analyzing this. And Trustee Allen, I applaud you. Okay, and Trustee Allen, I applaud your negotiating tactics. I think that was very good. If the decision is made one way or the other, to use that leverage of maintenance to get a better deal, cut a better deal with the county. But before we jump ahead to the negotiating tactics, I think let's examine the strategy and consider that green trail versus the white trail, because in my mind, it's a no-brainer. It's clearly safer and would clearly be a better family experience. A number of people said that. Riding bikes along a busy street, not nearly as scenic as inside the Forest Preserve, which is being enabled through the green, but not the white. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your comments. I do want to reiterate one thing that Jeff Ziegler said is that if we do bring that trail back out by the green, I think that will encourage more people to cut across Ogden at Woodland than it would if we pulled it up and set it back along Wolf Road. Of course.
Scott Hamilton, Scott Hamilton again for you television audience. When I say I'm an avid cyclist, some of the groups in town, I ride with them. Not as often as I should, given my I do get up. Cyclists will go to where there's a light.
Okay.
So, and cyclists with families that are serious about safety, they will go to that corner and take the light. That is much safer. Now, you'll never stop people from cutting across, and now we have trained everybody to go right there. So of course that's going to be. Eventually, though, cyclists will naturally take that green right around that light and cross there. Trust me.
I hope you're right.
I am right.
I just wanted to point out that there are considerations with that green path as well.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
No, of course there are. Of course there are. But
Thank
peel
you.
the onion back an extra layer or two. Over time, people will gradually stop using wood because that is not a very safe crossing.
Right.
And they will use the light for the reason that the light will give them the ability to cross with a traffic signal.
Thank you.
So actually, I had a quick question, Mr. Hamilton's comments. It's not for you, but your feedback actually prompted a question. Will we do anything at Woodland to put some signage that would suggest and direct people to the new crossing so they would hopefully avoid it?
Absolutely. We'll be taking out the signals, we take out the actual crosswalks, the depressions and the curbs, and the sidewalk pads that are there. That would all be removed as part of this, and we would direct people via signage down to, on our side, down to, on Western Springs side, down to us.
Could we get the Forest River to pay for a sign on their side?
There's no place to go on their side.
Okay.
Jeff, are we at apples and apples with green versus white? I mean, are the costs the same? Is the maintenance the same? And other than that patch there, which is, it hasn't been determined to me whether it has definitively that we can't go through there because of Four Oaks. Is everything else the same between the white and the green from the village's standpoint?
Yeah, they're very similar. If you talk to environmental people, you know, when you start looking at trees and stuff like that and the value of an oak tree versus the value or quality of the trees that are going to be taken down along the white path, they're significantly different. If you talk to an environmental person, if you talk to me, I look at them all the same, pretty much. But, you know, when we talked about the white path, we were talking about you know, various plants that were out there, the portion of the green path down at the bottom, there's a plant back inside there. There's pros and cons to the whole mix. And, you know, you get 10 different people in the room, you'll get 10 different opinions about how they think it should go.
Can we get any more specificity regarding the comparison between the two?
We can. We already took a look at I've actually already surveyed a portion of the green path, to which ultimately the Forest Preserve District came back to us and said, no, we don't want that green path. So, but we need to figure out who's saying what at the Forest Preserve District. That was the conclusion. I sat in a teleconference meeting with folks downtown, and we probably had 7 to 10 people in that meeting. And it was clearly said that they don't want that green path. So, you know.
Well, let's clarify that for sure, and
Absolutely.
Because that may just end the discussion at that point. And
Right. And
beyond
that's
that,
what we need to do. We really need to clear the air on who's saying what at the Forest Preserve District.
So, Mr. Abbott, do you have a specific name of the person you were speaking to?
Yeah.
Okay.
thank you. Anyone else? Mary? Hi.
Is this on?
Yes.
Hi, Mary McGovern, 4039 Ellington.
Actually, is the green light up?
No.
Okay. Flip it
Oh, there you go. Now it's on?
There you
Okay. Mary McGovern, 4039 Ellington. Two things I wanted to bring up. One was Ingrid and I spoke earlier today and described the area that the path would go through, which is the existing vegetation. So how wide is the existing vegetation patch now that goes along Wolf Road?
300-400 feet.
So if you put the 10-foot path through there, how much vegetation would exist on both sides of the path?
about 230 feet on one side and probably 10 feet on the other.
And that would be after you did all the clear cutting you needed to do?
That's correct.
So if I was riding on the path, I would not see Wolf Road?
Well, I can see Wolf Road walking through the woods right now. You're welcome to go out there. I've cleared an entire path out there over the last 2 days.
Okay.
There are flags that are out there that are for the center line of the, well, don't do it till after I'm done surveying. I don't want anybody damaging my survey marks. But I've cleared an entire path through there with Forest Preserve permission to be able to survey the alignment along there.
But what you cleared would be cleared wider for the path to go through?
Yeah, I've probably cleared probably 7 to 10 feet total right now. And, you know, we're probably talking, well, Forest Preserve District wants us 5 foot outside the pavement. So, you know, they'll want, so we're talking about 5 foot and another 7. So from those flags, they're probably talking about, you know, 13 feet, 12 feet. That's what the Forest Preserve District would like to see from the flags that are out there.
The size of the cleared path?
No, for the path itself. That
The
would be
path
the
itself.
entire clearance from the center of the path that I've marked out there till the trees would end, any type of clearing would end.
Okay, so if I were riding on the path and I was on the Wolf Road was closest to me, how much vegetation is between me and the road, the edge of Wolf Road?
10 feet.
It'd be 10 feet, not 15 feet.
It will be 10 feet. Right. Because of the clearance, the clear zone from the edge of the path in which a bicyclist or somebody could veer off the path and have enough room to recover. By federal standards, we only need a 2 foot wide shoulder. The Forest Preserve District asked us to make it 5 feet.
So, usually in the verbiage I see 15 feet. And I imagine that from the edge of the road and 15 feet of vegetation and then the bike path. So that's not true.
No, but I've never said that. It's 15 feet from the edge of the shoulder.
Right.
Now, if you want to take it from the traveled way, you can add 3 feet to that. So, but the traveled way is, there's 3 foot of pavement, 3 foot of bituminous shoulder out there, or asphalt shoulder. And then from that point, outside the 3 foot, so from the edge of where the dirt meets the pavement, it's 15 foot to the center line of the path.
Okay. Thank you for saying that,
No problem.
because I was thinking something different.
Okay.
The other question I had was regarding the red light. You said there is a turn on red at that corner of Ogden and Wolf?
There's a right turn on red, yes.
And after all the safety lights go in there, what will change? Will there be an arrow that allows the right turn?
Well, my expectation currently is first of all, there would be warrants and things like that. There would have to be a study done if you want to start stopping reds and no longer permitting reds. It's called a permitted red, so that way you can actually continue to turn. And so there would have to be a study done to stop that from occurring if it was necessary for it to stop.
Okay. I guess I imagined when I heard all this safety was going in at that corner, and that corner is particularly heavy when people are coming from Westchester going to 294. And so they're just going at very high speeds, taking that right onto Ogden to go to 294. And so I was thinking there would be an arrow that was green and allowed a right turn, but at certain times it would go red and then they would stop, kind of like the corner of York and Ogden and Hinsdale.
Well, like any corner, it's, you know, right turn on red if you typically stop.
Right.
And then if there are frequent issues with that, for instance, there aren't any gaps, that are created, people aren't stopping. Something like that is occurring. They're not following the law. We have law-related issues, and we have things that are safety-related issues, and the two don't necessarily, align with each other. So it's something that will come after the fact. It does not come before because you don't have a PET and you don't have the data to justify it.
So in terms of precautionary safety, right on red or no turns on red, that's not going to happen until after the fact?
That is correct.
Okay, and about how long after the fact could that be possible, do you think?
Wouldn't surprise me if it was probably anywhere from a year, 6 months to a year after completion of the project, where, we haven't committed to doing any kind of studies or anything like that for that. So I'm not saying that the study will occur. If there are issues there, the study will occur.
And who is responsible for that traffic light? Is that the state?
That is the state of Illinois.
So they decide what goes there?
That's correct.
And they are doing additional work to outline a crosswalk and et cetera from Wolf?
They are doing their own improvements at that intersection. That is correct.
Is it possible for us to see that, what they're going to do?
You're welcome to call the state. We
So-
don't have that information.
Okay, can we request it?
We who?
The village?
Oh.
We certainly can.
Because I think what I'm imagining is good safety. I'm not getting a guarantee of that. And I know we've all lived through the Woodland activity, and I think if we knew what would happen at Woodland before we agreed to it, I'm not sure we would have ever agreed to it. And I just don't want that to happen at Wolf and Ogden.
That's a reasonable approach.
Right. Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to new business. We have 3 items today for separate consideration from the omnibus. Trustee Timick.
Yes, so actually there are 3 items. 2 of them are linked, and I'll explain that in a moment. And assuming we come to an agreement, 2 of them then will be covered on the omnibus a little bit later in the meeting. The first 2 are tied to the Rose Garden and 39th Water Service line that we discussed at the last meeting on the 11th. It's an opportunity here to see the resolution, discuss if there are any questions, and then the ordinance as well. You'll note on the agenda the ordinance does not have a number. That is still being, I'll say, drafted or finalized, and that's due to the fact that there's a 30-day notice period after we discuss it here today. So I'll open it up to discussion if there's any questions for village staff, but again, it's the item that we covered last meeting.
All right, thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, the resolution, which you'll vote on later tonight, deals with the 3909 Garden Avenue property, the Aaron Checky property. It's the same agreement that you saw last month with the 2 other properties. She is going to have the village's contractor deal with the private installation of the water service lines, and she's selected financing option 3 like the other 2 residents, which means the village will be repaid when they pull a building permit or sell their home. The ordinance, as Trustee Timick indicated, that's the code amendment ordinance. What you have in your packet is a final version of the ordinance. There won't be any changes going forward, but it'll come back to you for a final vote in July. The Illinois Building Commission, per state law, requires that any ordinances that amend building codes, those proposed ordinances have to, quote, be on file with the state for a 30-day waiting period. Marty did the filing earlier this month, but there's a 30-day window that we have to wait, so that pushes us into an approval date in July.
Okay, so the first one, the resolution
Can be acted on
182439.
tonight.
That'll be
And
part
it
of the
is on
omnibus.
It is on the omnibus. The ordinance itself, item number 2, will come back next month for
Okay.
action.
Yeah, the resolution itself is agenda item number 8.
Okay.
Yep.
We did the other 2 last month.
You did the other 2 reimbursement
May.
agreements, just like the one you're going to vote on tonight,
Same
identical
language.
agreements through, the identical template underlying agreement. The only difference between the 3 agreements are the name of the owner and the property address and the PIN number.
So, thank you, Mike. It prompted one question on the financing. The 3% interest rate, how did we set that?
That was based,
when this project was established probably last year, that that was a cost of us borrowing money, so we were going to pass that cost on to residents, and it was more than we were getting in CD, so we were going to be arbitraging in a positive fashion at that point in time. It was never changed as the project continued to go forward.
No, I get that, but so 5 years from now, if interest rates are different, and there was a similar situation in the village, that it would be, the precedent would be sort of like what our borrowing costs
Yes,
are,
well, that's
would be
what
what rate
we
we would
determine.
sign. Okay, that's fair, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay. And then the third item, actually, we discussed previously during closed session, and so I'm happy to report that the village has reached an agreement with the Metropolitan Alliance of Police for a new contract for our patrol officers, and that was discussed, and the details, again, are the same as what we discussed previously. And assuming there's no new questions or concerns, this will be on the omnibus this evening.
Excellent. Any questions, any comments? Thank you, Trustee Timick. So we'll move on to the omnibus. The Illinois state statutes allow a municipality to collectively vote on a group of ordinances, resolutions, and other motions such as awards of contract, appointments, etc. This is known as an omnibus vote. All the items contained on the omnibus vote list have been previously discussed by the President and Board of Trustees on at least one occasion and often on several occasions. By placing them on the omnibus vote list, a single vote may be taken to approve them. A trustee may remove any item from the list and have it discussed and voted on separately prior to the omnibus vote. Is there any such request this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on. Trustee Timick?
Thank you, President Gallagher. I move that the following ordinances and/or resolutions as contained on the meeting agenda for June 25th, 2018 be adopted and/or approved under an omnibus vote. Agenda item number 4, approval of minutes of the meetings of May 21st and June 11th, 2018 as read. Agenda item number 5, ordinance 18-2924, authorizing the approval and execution of an amended mutual aid agreement and plan for the Northern Illinois Police Alarm System. Agenda item number 5, ordinance 18-2925, authorizing the disposal of surplus equipment from the Department of Fire and EMS equipment. Agenda item number 7, ordinance 18-2926, ascertaining prevailing rate of wages for laborers, mechanics, and other workers employed on public work projects in the Village of Western Springs, calendar year 2018. Agenda item number 8, resolution 18-2439, authorizing and approving the execution of a reimbursement agreement and temporary access and construction easement and lien for 2018 water service line installation project 3909 Garden Avenue property. Agenda item number 9, resolution 18-2440, authorizing and approving a labor agreement between the Village of Western Springs and Metropolitan Alliance of Police, Western Springs Police Chapter 360. Agenda item number 10, resolution 18-2441, authorizing and approving the execution of an intergovernmental agreement for the purchase and maintenance of an outdoor siren between the Village of Western Springs, Cook County, Illinois, and Pleasant View Fire Protection District, Cook and DuPage Counties, Illinois. Agenda item number 11, resolution 18-2442, authorizing and approving the execution of the Air Care Plus Participation and Access Agreement with Commonwealth Edison Company as part of the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program. Agenda item number 12, resolution 18-2443, authorizing and approving the execution of an intergovernmental agreement regarding the NICOR Franchise Ordinance Alliance cost-sharing agreement. Agenda item number 13, motion to award a bid to lowest qualified responsible bidder, Davis Concrete Construction Company of Alsip, Illinois, for the 2018 roadway program in an amount not to exceed $1,686,656.66.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
I will second.
Any discussion? Clerk Fitzgerald, may we have a roll call vote?
Certainly, President Gallagher. Trustee Hansen?
Aye.
Trustee Timick?
Aye.
Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph?
Aye.
Trustee Sifferman?
Aye.
Trustee Tyrrell?
Aye.
And President Gallagher.
Aye. Thank you. The omnibus passes. Moving on, do we have any other business this evening? We'll move on to the monthly financial reports. Trustee Rudolph.
Thank you, President Gallagher. You received your financial packets for our months ending April and May, and overall, we are right on track. Our sales tax, you might have noticed, is quite a bit higher, however, for the months of January and February in which the sales tax was earned. January was up over 20% over the prior year, and February was up 5%. So it's, we hope, good news for our local businesses. So it's nice to see that continue. Our water consumption is right about on pace, a little bit higher than the prior period. Please note, though, we've had a lot of rain lately, so we'll probably see it flat or down. Building permits continue to be doing very well, in particular for tear downs and renovations. Those are continuing at a great pace. And also of note too, the police pension, just I know we all keep a close eye on that. The police pension fund has posted returns of 1.33%. So down, as we all know, and the markets continue to be a little rough there. Also in the report, there was an error in terms of the 3-month Treasury auction where a decimal was in the wrong place. Thank you, Trustee Allen, for noticing that. Instead of 0.187%, it should be 1.87 and 1.93, respectively. Any questions regarding the report? If not, I have nothing further.
Thank you.
We need a motion to approve.
Sorry. I'll ask for a motion, please, to approve the reports for, what do we have, for April and May.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Timick.
May we have the roll call vote, please?
Certainly, President Gallagher. Trustee Hansen?
Aye.
Trustee Timick?
Aye.
Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph?
Aye.
Trustee Sifferman?
Aye.
Trustee Tyrrell?
Aye.
All in favor.
Thank you. Moving on, I have no further report this evening. Village Manager Velkme.
Thank you, Madam President. I have 2 reports tonight. The paid on-call recruitment campaign is underway, so we do have some banners outside advertising that, and if anybody has any interest whatsoever, please contact Chief Kenny on that, so in the fire department, correct? And then also, I just wanted to mention that we have sent out a save the date for the Illinois Tollway. They will be here at the Lyons Township High School South Campus on July 16th. We have a meeting set with them. We will be discussing the overall project, but also concentrating on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe reconstruction of the bridge. So that's what we're really concerned about, and we want to make sure that also our businesses come out to that so they understand the impact of that area. So,
Thank you. Village Attorney Drewes.
No further report tonight.
Thank you. In that case, I'd like to wish all of our residents a happy and safe 4th of July, and I'll now entertain a motion to recess to closed session to discuss pending litigation.
So we're actually not going to do executive session this evening.
Oh, we're not?
Yeah, there's no need. We're going to have that at the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Voice vote's fine.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And ladies and gentlemen, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Remember that from our discussion that we were going to do?
Mike.